Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you are having a fantastic day. If you're new to the channel, my name is Parker Nierenstein. This is Vehicle Virgins, and behind me is my new Shelby GT500. I've had the car for about 2 weeks now, and honestly, I've fallen in love with it. I like it so much more than I was imagining. It drives incredibly well, it sounds fantastic, and sometimes I find myself driving it over either my Tesla Plaid or the McLaren because it's just different. But no car is perfect, so here are 5 things I hate about the GT500. The first thing I hate about the new GT500 is its range. Now, hear me out. Obviously, when buying a performance car with a supercharged V8, you're not expecting it to get good fuel economy. But there becomes a point where it's a little bit ridiculous. I've been averaging 8.5 miles per gallon over the last 900 miles that I've had the car. Now, that's not the end of the world, but the problem is the tank is so small, I legitimately have to visit the gas station every single day in this car. Now, I got the car down to what I'm comfortable with driving range-wise. I've got like 1/8 of a tank left. It popped up saying I've got a warning on the dash, low fuel. And I've got to fill up right now, $76 for just 11.2 gallons. Check this out, a full tank of gas and I've got 151 miles of range. Now, last time I filled it up, it even said 135 miles of range. Oh, look, it dropped and I've just been idling with a full tank of gas. Now, obviously, unless you're crazy and like to live life on the edge, you don't want to run it to 0 before you go to the gas station. You're probably going to leave 40 or 50 miles left in the tank when you visit the station. So that really means you're getting 90 miles of range out of this car, which is worse than pretty much any modern day electric car. The second thing I hate about the Shelby GT500 has to do with the transmission controls. I love the transmission itself. 7-speed DCT, shifts really fast, the paddle response is great, but this spin dial unit down here absolutely sucks. With most DCT cars, you can actually put your foot on the brake and then pull the right paddle to put it into first gear. And I think Ford should have done that. Instead, in order to put it into first gear, you got to put your foot on the brake and rotate this dial all the way to drive. Now that's fine, but I found myself in a situation the other day where it actually was extremely dangerous. I pulled out slightly too far into an intersection and needed to back up quickly. I'm fumbling around with this unit, accidentally twisted it too far, put it into park, and then when I was twisting it into reverse, because I had a little bit of gas on, I was freaking out, thinking I was gonna get T-boned, it wouldn't go into reverse because my foot was a tiny bit on the gas. And I had to go back onto the brake, put it into reverse, and then slam it backwards. And I almost got T-boned because of this complicated mechanism. Honestly, I think they could have done a way better job. First gear could have just been pulling this paddle. They could have had a dedicated button for reverse, maybe a manual button. The third thing I hate about the GT500 is the mode selector. Now, I like that there's switches, kind of like in a fighter jet, but I do wish that they went in both directions. And I wish that you could pre-save which mode you're in, so every time you fire the car up, it ends up in that mode. Every single time I drive the GT500, I drive it in track mode. So every time I have to go over to this mode selector, and check this out, I've got to click it 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times to go into track mode. Now, they have this Super Snake button right here for customizing your drive modes, but all that does is actually bring up a screen where you can customize the drive modes. It doesn't actually bring up that custom drive mode. You should be able to click this once or twice, like in a BMW M3, for instance, that has those pre-saved buttons, and actually go straight into the proper drive mode. But instead, that doesn't actually work, and you have to flip this many, many times. Not a big deal, but if you do pass track mode into drag strip mode, then you have to click it a whole bunch more times, go ring around the rosy until you get back to track mode. The next thing I hate about the GT500 is the fact that they didn't offer it with a manual transmission. Ford had an amazing opportunity here. In a world of automatics and people begging for companies to save the manual, to put a manual transmission in a 760 horsepower rear-wheel drive track car. Most people who are buying a GT500 want it for the track driving experience. No longer are Mustangs just straight line cars. These things can go around the track as fast as a Porsche GT3 RS, which is absolutely ridiculous. Now, I understand that it'd be a little bit slower if it had a manual. Ford claims it was about doing the fastest lap times possible. Porsche says the same thing, but in their GT3, they offer it with a manual. Now, Ford says that they actually didn't have a transmission available that could handle the horsepower and the torque that this thing produced. as a manual, but they could have easily sourced one. Obviously, there's plenty of manual transmissions that can handle 760 horsepower and the torque that this puts down. Now, I love the DCT transmission. It's awesome, but personally, I 100% would have opted for the manual, and I think probably the majority of GT500 clients would have gotten a manual as well. The last thing I hate about the GT500 is the interior quality. Some of the buttons in here feel like it should be in a $10,000 car. And check out the graphics on the navigation. Now remember, this car, particularly with markup these days, can be upwards of $125,000. Does this look to you like a $125,000 navigation system? Let's go ahead. This is the lovely multimedia controls with these basic plastic buttons that look like they should be in a Ford Focus. Now, I understand it started life as a base model Mustang, but I feel like they could have upgraded some of the plasticky bits in the GT500, maybe with carbon or some sort of gloss plastic that looks a little higher end than this kind of chintzy looking mid-2000s design. But if we go to the navigation, are you kidding me? Like, this looks like an iPhone 1. We are in 2022. They definitely can do a better job than this relatively laggy screen with absolutely no detail. I mean, this looks like a Windows from 1995. This car has a several $1,000 technology package that also comes with the Bang & Olufsen sound system. Now, the sound system itself is great, but in most cars, when you get an upgraded speaker system, the speakers actually look cool and high-end. You feel like you're getting what you paid for. Look at what the speakers look like in this car. I mean, what is this? I mean, this is the tweeter, I assume, for high-pitched sound, but that looks like crap. I mean, seriously? The only part that looks somewhat okay is this B&O logo right here, but once again, this is plastic. The majority of cars with high-end sound systems have a nice metal finish to it, and sometimes some ambient lighting inside. This is a bit lackluster, to say the least. Although, I always find this funny. Driver door ajar. Why do you say that, Ford? As a bonus feature, I mean, obviously this is self-explanatory. It's a two-door sports car, but you are not fitting anyone in the rear seats. I mean, basically not even children. However, it is nice for extra storage. There is a big trunk in here, so you don't really need extra storage. And I know some people with the GT500s get the rear seat delete, and that might be the move, honestly, because like, what are you supposed to fit back here other than a helmet and a sweatshirt? That's pretty much all that fits. There is exactly enough legroom for a water bottle sized leg. So if your legs are as thin as water bottles, you can fit back here. Well guys, there you have it. 5 things I hate about the Shelby GT500. Honestly, this has been one of the favorite cars that I've ever owned. I didn't anticipate falling in love with it like I have. It's so much fun to drive. It sounds incredible. And honestly, it handles so damn well. You wouldn't expect it, and I get so many questions like, Parker, does it actually handle well in the canyons? Yes, it does. It's fantastic, and it grips like nobody's business. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Like always, please browse the channel and subscribe. I look forward to seeing you next video.